So I've kind of been, you know, there is an update, and I've kind of like not been making any comments on it because, well, it's not really that big of an update. I went and took the neurocog, and to the best of my understanding, I passed. And now I'm just waiting on the FAA to send my neuropsych doc the pretty much the same paperwork they got a year ago. What's up, Chase? The same paperwork they got a year ago to say, like, yeah, he's still good. Question for you, asking for a friend. If said friend got a DUI and needs to renew his medical, can he still do it without jumping through all the hoops with the FAA? No. And the fact that you didn't notify, and the fact that your friend didn't notify the FAA immediately of that DUI, you're going to be lucky if you get it back at all. Not good. Not good. But just passed my commercial pilot check ride. Huge thanks to your mock videos. Awesome. Congratulations. Is pulling the chute on a Cirrus a standard landing procedure? No. Actually, if you pull the chute on a Cirrus, it totals the airplane. The airplane will never fly again. But yeah, for my medical, what's happening is I went and I took the neurocog. The neurocog is it's a battery of like 4 tests. It's a, they make you do the MMPI, which is just a personality test. They make you do a couple IQ tests. They they check and make sure you don't have like Alzheimer's. They check and make sure you don't have like, what's the thing that not Jamie Foxx, the guy that played in Back to the Future, Parkinson's. They make sure you don't have Parkinson's. What else? Yeah, they make sure you don't have Parkinson's, and that's about it. Yeah, there's IQ test. Make sure you don't have Parkinson's. Do a personality check, and to the best of my knowledge, I passed. It said, and I quote, I guess maybe saying I quote is the wrong way to put it. I just don't feel like pulling up the actual thing. But pretty much they said no deviancies, no personality deviancies, and their IQ is fine and no evidence of cognitive decline. So yeah, but DUI, usually just notify the FAA. But yeah, if you got a DUI, you're going to have to go. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a shit show dealing with the FAA and getting a medical certificate back. I'm a student pilot with 50-ish hours, planning to take the written next month. Should I be concerned? I haven't soloed yet. I flew inconsistently for a long time and I couldn't progress. Well, that's the problem, flying inconsistently. Flying inconsistently is the problem. I tell students to have anywhere from 10 to 15 grand saved up before they ever even start flight lessons, because you're going to end up flying inconsistently. Is landing in the grass of an airport technically illegal? Well, if there is a point intended for landing, then land on the point intended for landing. You choosing to not use the point for intended landing could be deemed as what's the words? Reckless use of an aircraft, right? Because everyone at that airport is going to expect you to land on the pavement. They're going to expect you to land on the runway. So if I'm taxiing around that airport and I am under the impression that everybody's going to be operating in a safe manner, and then there's some jackass deciding to land in the grass between 2 runways just because he wants to show off, because he thinks it's going to get him a piece of ass or some poontang or something like that, then yeah, I would definitely view that as a reckless operation of an aircraft. Now, if there's no discernible surface for landing, fucking land. But it's the problem as when you're operating in an airport with defined intended landing surfaces and then you choose not to use them, it's dangerous. How soon can you take the written? I think the results are good for 2 years. Just passed my theoretical ESA ATPL. Congratulations. New CFI here. What do you require for sign off for someone for the written test? I usually require we sit down and go over literally anything and everything that's going to be on the written, which is going to be a whole lot more expensive than them buying like some of those study prep books. I like Gleim for private pilot because Shepherd Air doesn't exist anymore. Fuck Sporties for private pilot. The amount of times students have come to me and said, "Oh, well, Sporties, I got the little certificate for Sporties," and then they don't know their asshole from their elbow. Sporties will give you a certificate saying that you've met the ground school portion. I don't like Sporties. It seems way too easy. It doesn't test the student. So I usually require some kind of, either we're going to sit down for hours and hours and hours going over anything and everything that's going to be on that written, doing weight and balance calculations, doing performance calculations for any and all different aircrafts that they might be qualified to operate in, or they can go get a Gleim book and take the little practice tests with Gleim. That's what I recommend, given that Shepherd Air isn't an option for private pilots anymore. But Jack needs to stop, or Jack needs to stop. Don't worry, just have some money saved up. Have some money saved up, go through your flight training kind of concurrently. All right. I had the same problem with the neuropsych not getting my FAA medical file. I sent them a new release and they sent it through Huddle. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just sent it like 2 weeks ago. And it usually takes the FAA about 6 weeks. If they don't get it in, another week or two, I think I'm just going to send the FAA a letter from me, like a request from me for a certified copy. And then they're just going to mail it to me. And then I'm just going to take it to the neuropsych people, or mail it to them. My school pushes Sporties private pilot only, but they require 3 practice tests over. Well, that's because your school probably has some kind of affiliate link with Sporties and they get a kickback when they've got students that go through Sporties. I have not seen good students out of Sporties. All right, I lie. I've seen like one good student out of Sporties. But they also got it for free. They like won it in a sweepstakes. It's weird. The people who pay for Sporties seem to do worse using Sporties than just like having a decent ground instructor. I've heard, what is it? Pilot Institute. They're not bad. Let me see. I'm just checking my email real quick because I think I got something from them. They might have sent me something. Yeah, let me check something real quick. But what the fuck? Whatever. I didn't really. Any other questions? Anything else? Anybody got anything else going on? I mean, we talked about that L3 Harris, their cancellation policy. That is fucking nuts. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd come on here, say hi, see what everybody's up to. Talk about any kind of questions anybody's got. If anybody's got anything else going on in their flight training, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, I am more than happy to answer any and all questions that you've got. Oh, wait, I think I missed one. FAA PPL feels much harder than the EASA. At least that's how I feel compared to what I've seen you asking on some mock check rides, for example. Well, my mock check rides are definitely more difficult because I want to make sure that student shows up prepared. I don't want them to get that one DPE that's like going to ask all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of ridiculous stuff. Hey, man, just got my PPL last week. Your mock interviews you shared helped a lot. Appreciate what you do. Awesome. Congratulations. That is awesome. Good job. How's it feel to finally have that done? I know there was some stuff that was going on over on the YouTubes that there was oh yeah. Did y'all hear Trevor Jacob lost his license again? Here, like, let's look it up. FAA Airman Registry. So I know I gave the FAA all kinds of shit about this. When it came to Which one can I go to? All right. Oh, damn. You know what? We'll do it with the iPad then. Yeah, apparently Trevor Jacob lost his license yet again. Let me set up the iPad and then come back to it. So yeah, the FAA, I know I kind of gave them a lot of shit when I was like, hey, look, there's this guy, Trevor Jacob, who intentionally crashed an airplane and chopped it up and threw it, into the trash all around the desert so that he could, hide it so that he wouldn't get in trouble. And he still has a license. But, then you got Troy Merritt, who doesn't. Or at least doesn't have a medical. But the FAA actually took Trevor Jacobs' license away again. So that is grand. That is grand. That the fuck. Oh, I plugged it into the wrong port. I got way too many cables kicking around my laptop or around my desktop to really make this stuff organized. Allow. Cancel. Search for device. There we go. Accept. So I've got my iPad. I've got ForeFlight and all this other jazz, or Garmin Pilot. So if anybody's got any approaches that they're curious about, if anybody's got anything that they're worried that they're going to get. So I met my first dangerous pilot yesterday at a Class G airport. He told me that he could fly whatever pattern he wanted, even though we don't fly to the east because the neighboring airport. Oh, well, that's terrifying. You can always report them to the FAA. You can always say that there's a pilot out here being unsafe. It's always an option. How do I manage to stay proficient IFR multi-engine after flight school? I do. Well, okay. So I teach in the Airbus A320. I teach in the full motion sim. So that's how I do it. I have a question about commercial pilot privileges. Can I carry somebody with a commercial pilot for money with my own plane without holding out? He comes to me and asks me to carry him, taking off and landing at the same airport. Well, that's a tour, but a tour does require other things. You do still have to get an approval from the FAA, but there is more regs that cover tours. We can go over those if y'all want. But that is an aerial tour. What you call it? Hey man. All right. Nope. Good. Moving onto IFR, trained in Mesa around the area you did. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. At about 4 hours of TOLs. I don't know what TOLs is. I have an issue with maintaining centerline. In pretty much every phase, I seem to want to use the opposite rudder than I need. I figure I just need more practicing. Yeah, that's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. So here, let me find the regulations that cover tours. Well, that's AOPA. I don't really want AOPA. Air tour operators, commercial air tours, defined Part 91. This is really just the definition of it. So that's the thing. You have to have you can't just go hop in an airplane and start offering tours anymore. That used to be the case, but now you have to sign up for like a pre-employment. You have to sign up for like a drug testing program. There needs to be a pre-employment system, a reasonable cause or suspicion, and random. Even the people who like work on the airplane. So if you have a mechanic that works on the airplane with their A&P, they need to be wrapped up into your air tours drug testing program. I'm trying to find the actual regulations that cover it. I mean, I know it's in Part 91. Let me see if I can find it on my phone real quick. Because that's the thing. I looked into it because I wanted to do it, and it obviously ended up being way too complicated. Is it 91225? Is that what it was? No, that's ADSB. Special flight operations, maintenance, preventative, additional foreign operating noise limits, waivers, fractional ownership. God, which one was it? Continued airworthiness special regulations. The MU2. That's nuts that there's a whole section specifically about the MU2. Let's see, tour. Uh, 119. This part, as an air carrier, commercial operator, both air commerce, when common carriage is not involved in 20 pounds. 91501, that's what it is. This subpart describes the operating rules in addition to those prescribed in the subparts, blah, 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 multi-engine airplanes. All right, so 91501 covers ferry flights, aerial work such as aerial photography, survey, pipeline patrol, but not including firefighting operations, flight for the demonstration of an airplane perspective to customers at no charge, flights conducted by the operator of an airplane in his personal transportation, transportation of his guests at no charge, carriage of officials or employees, carriage of company officials, carriage of property, carriage of an airplane for an athletic team, carriage of a person of an airplane property to the furtherance of a business. Oh, God. I forget. What did you recommend other than Sporties? Pilot Institute. I just passed my second practice test on there for the endorsement, but I definitely don't feel written ready. But I also only have 18-ish hours. Yeah. I've seen Pilot Institute stuff. I've talked to them about it. I've seen Sporties stuff. I haven't talked to Sporties about it. They don't talk to me for some reason. But I've talked to Pilot Institute and their stuff seems pretty solid. Any tips on power on stalls? They make me nervous for the check ride. So maintain coordination. A lot of people. So I got to ask this: what type of instrumentation do you have in the aircraft? Is really the first question, because that it matters. It matters. Because like if you've got just the regular old ball indicator, you need really just pay attention to how it feels. If you have a brick, you can use the brick, but yeah, so commercial air tours using powered aircraft and remaining in 25 miles of the home airport under Part 91 and require an FAA letter of authorization approving the operation. Participation in DOT drug and alcohol program is required. Yeah, you can't just hop in an airplane and start offering tours. What's up, BFR RJ? What's up, Alex? But really just when it comes to power on stalls, just keep pulling back. You have regular instruments. Well, that's not useful. There's no such thing as regular instruments. All right. Do you have steam gauges? Do you have glass? Do you have G5s? Do you have Avionics? Do you have Dynan? You know, because here's the thing: if you have like steam gauges with the ball, just fly the fucking airplane. Feel it, right? Feel what coordination feels like. The reason is when you start tilting that airplane up, sometimes that ball can rest on the glass. And if that glass is old, if it's got some chips to it, if it's got something going on, or if the instrument was just installed a little crooked, right? That ball might not be accurate. So you're over here pressing right rudder because the ball tells you you need right rudder. But when you're all pitched up like that, the ball very likely isn't accurate. So just feel it, right? If I feel like I'm getting pushed into this seat, I need left rudder. If I feel like I'm getting pushed over here into this seat, I need right rudder. Okay. Hey man, got my check ride on Monday and was wondering if you had any maneuver advice for both stalls and cross country advice. Stalls, just maintain coordination. That's kind of what we were just talking about, right? If you feel like you're getting pushed to the left, push the left rudder. If you feel like you're getting pushed to the right, push the right rudder. I recommend put feet on both rudder pedals and just kind of modulate the pressure, right? So put a little pressure on both of them, just kind of modulate the pressure instead of going, oh, balls to the left, left rudder, balls to the right, right rudder, ball to the left, left rudder, you know, and then you end up dancing on them. Obviously, that's not going to work. But if you just modulate that pressure, it helps you. It kind of pulls away the oh crap, I'm going through center. All right. As for check ride advice, I'm not really sure. Just make sure you've got, some easily identifiable points. Why don't we retract flaps when we touch down? Don't we need more drag to reduce the ground roll? I heard it's because of wheel bar. I don't know what wheel bar is. No, we don't retract flaps when we touch the ground because students are stupid. And no, I joke. Students aren't stupid, but students aren't comfortable enough in the aircraft to land, maintain directional control, and then start reaching for other shit. Right. Also, your flaps add a lot of drag too. So any advice on getting better in the comms? Just talk. Just talk. Just have a conversation, right? If you're going to talk to tower, hey tower, this is Cessna 123. I'd like to come in and land. We didn't have to use any fancy language. There wasn't anything, we had to be worried about. It was just, hey tower, Cessna 123, 20 miles away to the west. I'd like to come land. What? Cessna 123 is you, Jack? Instead of going, tower, Cessna 123, 20 miles to the southeast of the field at 4,000. Request vectors for final approach for landing. No, just, hey, approach. Can I get flight following to Tucson? This is Cessna 123, right? Hey, approach. I'm at about 5,000 feet. I'm going to climb to 7. I'm currently over this VFR waypoint. Can I get flight following down to Marana? That's it, right? Just have the conversation with them. That is my biggest tip when it comes to getting better on the comms. Just talk. Stop trying to make fancy things. Stop trying to make it fancy. Just talk. Do glider pilot hours count towards PPL? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Not maintaining center line while reaching for other things. Yeah, I don't see why glider hours wouldn't. Well, so there's some time that will count towards your private pilot certificate. I don't think all of it. When you go through your private pilot certificate, there is the requirement that some of it be in a powered aircraft. Do I have the FAR aim on? Oh, I do have the FAR aim on my iPad. Let's look it up. It's going to be under part 61. All right, 61. And then we're going to go down to the private pilot sections. There's aircraft ratings. There's student pilots. There's recreational pilots. Commercial pilots. I must have missed private pilots. There we go. Aeronautical experience. So 61,109. Let's go ahead and pull this up so you guys can kind of follow along with me. Oh, why is it not there? iPad. Oh, because I didn't make it visible. Scenes. No, it should be visible. Okay. Properties. Oh, because it didn't. There we go. There we go. All right. So now you guys can kind of follow along with me. As you can see, we're right here. Aeronautical experience for airplanes with single engine rating need to be at least 40 hours of flight time that include 20 hours of flight training from an authorized instructor, 10 hours of solo, 3 hours in a single engine, 3 hours cross country flight training in single engine airplane, except it's in 61,110. You also need the hours of nighttime. You need a cross country of 100 nautical miles. So it seems like you need 10 hours of solo, right? So except as provided in paragraph K of this section, a person who applies for a private pilot certificate in an airplane with category of single engine class must log at least 40 hours of flight time. Okay. So there's one thing. You got 40 hours of flight time. It does not say anything about those 40 hours of flight time needing to be in a single engine airplane, 20 hours of flight training from an authorized instructor, and 10 hours of solo training in the areas of operations listed in 61,107 Bravo 1 of this part. And the training must include at least 3 hours of cross country in a single engine airplane. So it's calling it out, saying that you need it in a cross country, just need it in a single engine airplane. Except this is like, hey, I live in Alaska and night doesn't come around for another 6 months, right? That's what 61-110 is. One cross-country flight over 100 nautical mile distance and 10 takeoffs and landings to a full stop, with each landing involving a flight in the traffic pattern at the airport. So this one right here, there's nothing requiring that to be in a single engine airplane. Then we have 3 hours of flight training in a single engine airplane to control on the control maneuvering of an airplane solely by the reference to instruments, including straight and level flight. So here's another one where it calls out single engine or airplanes. We need 3 hours. We need another 3. So we're at 6 hours. If you're going to do stuff at night, we need 9 hours. But here's the thing, this cross country and this nighttime can be done at the same time. So anywhere from 6 to 9 hours. 5 hours of solo cross country time. None of that doesn't say anything about it being in an airplane. Okay. So it seems as though you'd need anywhere from about 9 to 16 hours of flight training in a single engine airplane to transfer from glider to private pilot. Hey, thanks for the mock private videos on your YouTube. It helps. Awesome. Congratulations. Can I explain a little bit of private carriage versus common carriage? Private carriage example is maybe a bit confusing. Private carriage is, I have a jet and I have people that I move in it and they pay for it. This is things like, let me Google one just to make sure that I've got it correctly, because I don't want to give you the wrong answers. All right, carriage requirements. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Private carriage. Carriage for hire that does not involve holding out. So I didn't hold it out to the public. Private carriage is carriage for hire for one or several selected customers. Okay. The number must not be too great is to suggest the willingness to make a contract with anybody. Okay. Things like services that are allowable would be like flight instruction, nonstop sightseeing flights, ferry or flight training, crop dusting, seeding, spraying, bird chasing, banner towing, aerial photography, surveys, firefighting work, or repair work. Okay. There isn't really like terminology to study, Nick. It's really just talk, just have a conversation. That's it. What else? Yeah, of course, Johnny. Of course, Johnny. Glad it helped. Currently doing ATPL in Germany. I would love to fly commercially in the US. Do you know if it's possible for me as a foreigner? I know it's more difficult, but I don't know a whole lot about the transition stuff. I usually leave that up to some kind of office. I don't do transition training because, well, just to be honest, I don't know enough about it. I know if you get a TSA clearance, I can do all the same training for you. But I know that's obviously not what you want, right? You want to be able to transfer it over. Okay. Is it appropriate to quickly listen to weather for wind direction in an emergency if time permits? Well, where are you landing? Are you landing 30 miles away or are you landing right at the airport? Can you tell me if I can get the app on iPad? What app? I don't know what app you're talking about. I'd say it's probably, if you had an engine failure and you couldn't get the engine back and you're at like 8,000 feet and field elevations like 1,200 and you're near an airport, sure, listen to the weather. Why? Yeah, I don't see why not. It doesn't really seem like that bad of a plan. But if you're, at 3,000 feet and you're hitting dirt within the next minute or two, I don't think I'd be worried about what the weather is. I'd be looking for some dirt. I'd be looking for a windsock. I'd be looking for anything that might indicate what the wind is. My ground speed, if I have a GPS that will show me my ground speed. Right? There's a number of places. But if my engine's dead, I'm not tuning in a weather frequency. All right. Unless my engine died at like 9,000 feet because I ran out of gas and I know I'm not getting it back. And I've got, another 8 minutes before I'm even worried about touching the ground. Okay. glad that these mock check rides are helping. Awesome. That any advice on better on comms? Talked about that. Mock check rides are always helpful. I love it. I love that y'all are actually watching these things. It says like the average view time on them is like 16 or 18 minutes. So I don't know. Like, are y'all actually watching them? I'm trying to make them more. I'm trying to make them interesting. I'm trying to make them engaging. I'm trying to make sure that like y'all still hang out for the whole thing, because there's a lot of good information in them. So I don't know if the reason if some people are watching them for 30 seconds and other people are watching them for, the whole thing. It seems like 30% of people are dropping off within about the first 2-3 minutes. And then about 20% of people are watching them all the way through. Awesome. Now, Champagne, I'm not sure what Champagne's talking about, but anybody got any other questions? We talked about common carriage. We talked about private carriage. We talked about L3 Harris, their wonderful cancellation policy. That seems like an absolute disaster. I am just waiting for an incident to happen because of that. There is no way that an incident isn't going to happen because of that. Oh, look, my seat got upgraded because I'm going to work tomorrow. What did I get upgraded to? Oh shit, I got first class. Oh, but only from Green Bay to Minneapolis. That sucks. You watched the whole thing? That is awesome, Chase. That is awesome. Would an episode about memory aids be cool? We constantly talk about them in school, and I find a huge help to hear other people's. So I like memory aids. I hate when students stop at memory aids. That's why I don't really bring up a lot of memory aids, because I hate when students stop at the memory aid instead of actually going to read the rule, the regulation, the book, the associated source material. What's the cancellation policy? Pretty much, if it's a VFR flight, it's VFR conditions. You're not canceling. IFR flight, crosswind limitation. Like, that's pretty much it. That's not good. That is not good at all. What do I fly? I have a Lake 200. You can actually see kind of an outline of it back there. But I'm also typed in the Embraer 145, the Airbus A320, and the CRJ 200. Now, I haven't flown the CRJ 200 in years, so I mean, saying that I'm typed in the CRJ 200 is a little, yeah. But Jason, yeah. So, know any good initial CFI study materials, tips, or advice? Write your own lesson plans. Think back to when you were going through private pilot and write your own lesson plans to fill the gaps that you thought there was. Try to do better than your instructor. Don't try to meet the standard of your instructor. Try to do better than what your instructor did. Because what I've seen recently is a lot of people, they're going up to 80%. They're going to 80%, saying like, oh, well, all I need to do is reach 80% and I'll pass. And then you end up with somebody meeting 80% of what somebody else's 80% was, of what somebody else's 80% was. So now let's shift that around and say, I want to be better than my instructor. My instructor needs to be a shittier teacher than I am by the time my CFI is done. But CFI Notebook is where I would recommend. CFI Notebook is a great place to start. CFInotebook.net is where I usually start with a lot of my things, right? Any tips flying a consistent circling approach? What do you, I mean, just fly a pattern. Yeah, just fly a pattern. Can you go into the electrical system and typically what the DPE wants to know? I know they don't want you to build the plane, but I've seen a lot of varied answers. What I've seen is they mostly want to know what battery you've got, like how many volts that battery is, so that you know if you were to ever park the airplane somewhere and forget to turn the master off, you can go talk to the ground crew and get the appropriate jump cart, right? What's up, Amber? And how many amperage the alternator is supposed to put out? or how many volts the alternator is supposed to put out and how much amperage the alternator has available to it. Right? That's mostly what I've seen. Okay. They want you to know the voltage of the system. They want you to know how much amperage is available to your alternator, and they want to know what normal is when it comes to output from your alternator. I haven't seen anybody digging any deeper than that. Will you be able to go through the vacuum system on a Cessna? What do you mean by go through it? I mean, it's a pretty simple system. So you've got your vacuum pump on your engine, right? And that's actually pulling air through your instruments. So you've got a hose that runs down. Here, let me see if I can find a. I'm trying to see if I can find. Yeah. So here's. Let me open this up. Open image in new tab. Oh, for the love of God. Sorry, over on Microsoft or over on Instagram, it's looking a little weird. So I gotta fix it. Properties. Oh, that's definitely not what I want. Oh, it's because it's just not there. That explains it. Window capture. Oh, not window capture. What do I want? I want display capture. We'll just go with the wide one. So transform, fit screen, kind of. Oh, for the love of God. There it is. All right. So here's the vacuum system on your normal Cessna 172. All right. Real helpful. I know. We'll go over it. Just give me 2 seconds for me to get everything back in order. Do video capture device. Sony. No, that's way too big. Transform, fit to screen. There we go. That's better. That's more like it. Okay. So let's go into the vacuum system on a Cessna. What's up, Steve? So how does a vacuum system work in a Cessna 172? So you've got your vacuum pump. This is what sits actually on your engine. This is run by your engine. There's a gear that runs this. There's also a shear pin in it in the event that your vacuum pump seizes. This is a dry pump, right? There's no fluid in it. All it is moving air out. Okay. It's just pulling air. Then you've got a vacuum relief valve in the event that your vacuum pump pulls too much air. Okay. You've got a relief pump. Then all it does is it just pulls air from the filter that sits under your dash, and one goes through your heading indicator, and then one goes through your suction gauge and through your attitude indicator. But you also have a little T off of it in the event that your suction gauge seizes up. That's awesome. You did your first solo today. Congratulations. So that's really how your vacuum system works. It's not that complicated. You've got a vacuum pump that pulls air through these instruments, through a filter, and then they spin. Okay. Let's look up attitude indicator internals. Images. So if we look inside of an attitude indicator, I'm trying to get like a real good picture of the inside of one. Open image, new tab. There we go. So if we look inside an attitude indicator, these little cups is actually what catches all that air. As it starts pulling through, those little cups catch that air, spin up this gyro so that it displays. Vacuum systems aren't that complicated. Good questions, though. Good questions. Good questions. Can suction gauge ever read a lot? Like, yeah, I mean, what do you mean a lot? Yeah, if your relief valve gets stuck. How long will the battery last on a 152 if the alternator fails in flight? How long will the battery last in an alternator in a Cessna 152 last if the alternator fails in flight? That was the same question asked twice. It depends. Do you have an 8 amp hour battery? Do you have a 17 amp hour battery? Do you have a 60 amp hour battery? Do you have a 30 amp hour battery? It depends on how many amp hours the battery is rated for. So my airplane, it is authorized to use, I think, an 8 amp hour battery and a 17 amp hour battery. I put a 17 amp hour battery in it. Meaning that if I pull 17 amps from that battery, it will die in an hour. Okay. How do I know how much amperage I'm pulling from a battery? I use my ammeter. My ammeter is showing -5. Then I know my 17 amp hour battery is going to last me almost 3 hours. But that's probably not what's going to be happening. If my alternator isn't providing any power, I'm probably going to be pulling close to 10, 15, 20 amps. Okay. How can I get used to more rhetorical questions? What do you mean rhetorical questions? All hail Saint Cheese. In Saint Cheese we trust. I am not a saint, but I appreciate it. Does ELT have a separate battery? I was watching your videos. Yes, the ELT does have a separate battery. Yeah. So here, let's look at one. Because again, a lot of students don't actually get the opportunity to look at these things. All right. So it's an emergency locator transponder, emergency locator beacon. So this is what most people are going to have in their airplane. All right. This is what most people have. They're going to have a little switch. Oh, wait, shit. I have to actually show you all the screen. There we go. So this is what most people are going to have. They're going to have this little switch that's mounted on the dash somewhere. Right. And inside this little box is your ELT. There's an antenna for it as well. But that little switch is right there on the dash, and that's all you see. Okay. But this is the actual ELT. All right. It actually has its own switch on it as well. You can actually take it out of the airplane in an event of a crash if you plan on leaving the crash area so that, you can go get help. Right. But this has its own internal battery as well. All right. I love all your PPL check rides, prep boss. I have my check ride on 7-Eleven. Well, congratulations. Good luck. There is a Discord. The links should be kicking around here somewhere. But if you get over to the Discord, it's a whole collection of other student pilots pretty much in the same position as you, trying to get their training done. Right. All good questions, though. All good questions. Hey from India. Hey from Nepal. What's up? One tip for instrument rating check ride. Maintain situational awareness. If you don't have situational awareness, admit it. Ask for a hold or vectors. On a pitot mast, is the drain hole on the bottom of the pitot mast? Also, what is the drain hole for? The drain hole is to let moisture out. And I think on a pitot mast, it's on the bottom. But it's to let moisture out. Any tips, advice on creating lesson plans as a CFI? Yeah, try to be better than your instructor. Try to be better than your instructor and think in a building block style. Also, I have a training course outlined for $5. If you're a new student pilot, go over to trainingwithcheese.com. Or not a new student pilot, but if you're a new flight instructor and you kind of want to give yourself a framework to operate within, $5 get you a training course outline that'll take you all the way through private pilot. Trainingwithcheese.com. But we can go over a couple of them. I'm more than happy to share a little bit with y'all so that, we can, so you can see what I'm actually talking about. So this is my training course outline. For those of you who don't know, we got it right here. Private pilot training course outline, version 1. Nobody's told me anything wrong with it. So we're going to stay on version 1 until people start telling me shit's wrong with it. All right. Here we go. We got a little preamble, pretty much just saying hey, we can have mistakes. This is how it's designed, right? These are the lesson outcomes: satisfactory, unsatisfactory, incomplete. This is getting students used to the phraseology of a check ride, right? Just look up Curd Nerds Discord, CURD space NERD Discord, and you should be able to find it. All right. If not, the Discord link should be in the bio. But even if not, let's do this. Let's copy a link and let's go back to, where do we go? Yep. So for those of you curious, there's the Discord right there over in Instagram. And, it's OBS. That's the other one. And then there's the Discord link to YouTube. Awesome. But here is the training course outline, right? We've got things like with instructor guidance. Oh, come on. You know, with some instructor guidance, with minimal instructor guidance, with no instructor guidance. We talk about what a pre-flight briefing, post-flight briefing, and what blocks are. But then we actually get into, you know, the blocks, right? By the end of this block, the student should be able to comply with all the regulations set by 6187 A, B, C, and D. Applicable rules in 61 and 91, right? Block 2 is cross country. Block 3 is solo and night operations. Block 4 is check ride prep. And then we have block 1, lesson 1, to introduce the student into the training environment and expose them to pre-flight procedures. This lesson will also include basic explanation of flight controls, surfaces, primary and secondary, and how they are used to work together for the intended flight path, right? Then we have with instructor guidance, pre-flight, fuel, grade, explanation, use of checklists, certificates, and documents, start the discussion on aeronautical decision-making, right? So this is the training course outline saying like, hey, this is the order in which we're going to do these things in. And yeah, this is the order in which we're going to do these things in. And then, hey, it kind of helps you like, okay, well, if we're going to start talking about pre-flight actions, certificates, documents, slow flight, and weight and balance, maybe I should do a weight and balance lesson plan. How do we do weight and balance? Right? Because that was my biggest struggle when I was writing lesson plans. All right. All good questions, though. All good questions. Oh, wrong button. New ACS added a lot. So here's the thing. I read through the new ACS, and it didn't seem to add that much, but I'll look again. Yeah, so I mean, there's I mean, they finally got an ACS for flight instructor, which included slow flight operations. Let me see what else got added. New ACS and PTS incorporate references. Oh, well, this is just somebody trying to sell it to me. New ACS. Here, let's just look at it. So we got private pilot ACS. Let's just go find it. Because I didn't see a whole lot that changed. But let's look at it. Let's look at it. Pre-flight operation. To determine the applicant exhibits satisfactory knowledge and risk management skills associated with airmen and medical certificates, including privileges, limitations, currency, operations, pilot and command as a private pilot. I mean, all right, so they added Part 68, basic med privileges and limitations. So that is a new thing, right? They understand proficiency versus currency. They understand flying at an unfamiliar airport, unfamiliar avionics, right? Currently 24 hours into flight training, struggling with dialing in my landings. Any recommendations? So I do this pretty much every live, but we'll do it again, right? Because as long as it's helping more students, I don't care how many times we do it. So let's break our landing into 3 phases. We have three phases. Approach, round out, and flare. Students struggle because they immediately start going from round out into flare. They think they can force it into flare. Flare isn't something you force. It is something that happens as a result of landing properly. Okay. So what we do when we land, right? We're going to have our approach phase. Our approach phase just brings us to the pavement. Okay. When we start getting close to the pavement, then we are going to round out. How do I know that I am getting close to the pavement? It means I know this when the runway starts to rapidly expand into my peripheral vision. Okay. When the runway starts to rapidly expand, so like I'm looking at the runway, it comes at me and it starts to go into my peripheral vision. I round out there. Okay. Now, a lot of students go, okay, I rounded out. Now I need to flare. And then they go, ah. Well, they go, ah, but then they also balloon and end up hopefully going around. Okay. So what needs to happen is we're going to have our approach. Runway rapidly expands into our peripheral vision. We're going to round out. We're going to look down at the end of the runway. We aren't going to look close. We're going to look down. Remember, Think about standing on top of a mountain, standing on top of Mount Everest, standing on top of the Empire State Building. If I stare at my feet, I don't know how high I am. But if I look out in the distance, I know that I'm, really high, right? So approach, rapidly expanding into my peripheral vision, round out, look down. If I start to sink, pull back. If I start to sink, pull back. If I stop sinking, stop pulling. Right? But now bouldering, are you saying that you have been trying to force the flare, or you've been looking down at the end of the runway, or you've been staring real close? Aim high altitude in approach. What? That's not, no, don't. I don't know what that means, but don't do that. What you're going to do is you're going to go down once the runway rapidly expands into your peripheral vision, round out, look down at the end of the runway, stop your descent, stop your descent, stop your descent. Oh, you're flaring too early. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, right? My CFI told me to think, oh yeah. Okay. I mean, that's, if a CFI has to bring shit like that into flight instruction, I mean, it's a sign of a poor CFI. We need to be able to make relations, or not make relations, but we need to be able to make like correlations and help students understand without asking them to think with their dicks. CFI should generally try to be professional. So, telling your students to think of naked women at the end of the runway, it's indicative of a really poor CFI, because they struggle at understanding their student, and they struggle to understand ways that they can make things relate to their students without having them think with their dick. Right. Keep the aiming point in the same spot in the windscreen when landing, all the way down, straight and level. Yep. Had the worst landing of my life today. Flat spotted a tire. Bad today. Oh, did they charge you for it? How can I prove my coordination on stalls? Feel it. All right. Close your eyes. All right. Is really, I know, like this. What I want you to do is I want you to go tell your instructor to use the rudders while you close your eyes and try to figure out which rudder they're pressing or which rudder they need. Right. I need you to feel it, because you looking out the window, staring at your attitude indicator, or looking out the window, staring at your slip indicator, you're never going to be able to stay up with it. Okay. But if you're in the airplane and you're feeling it in your seat, okay, you start pitching up and you notice I'm leaning into my left. I'm leaning over to the left, right? I feel my left shoulder leaning into the door. I'm going to press some left rudder to bring me back here. All right. But if I feel myself leaning to the right, I'm not necessarily going to push right rudder, but I'm going to modulate whether I need more or less left rudder. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. The delay sucks. Yeah, they had to replace the tire. They only charged me $63 though. Oh, well, that's not bad, because tires are like $150, and that's the cheap ones. So yeah, just stay off the brakes. Just don't touch the brakes. Right? Is it a short runway or something? Yeah, so that's really the best bit of advice I can give when it comes to staying coordinated. Anybody got any questions about like Airbuses or anything like that? My boss was supposed to email me today saying that there was like going to be some, exciting news. And I thought that meant we got approved for our Airbus teaching certificate, saying that we could, teach type readings in the Airbus now, but I'm not sure. My CFI had me repeat a lesson, probably $6,000 worth of repeats. What do? I go to a university. I'm not even close to my first stage check. Well, what's the lesson? Like just saying that we're repeating a lesson, doesn't, like, what's going on? Like, what's the lesson? Why is it going bad? What subjects are you struggling with? What items are the problem? Because that's important. It's important to know like what's actually happening instead of just, because we don't want to just blame the instructor saying, well, my instructor did this, so I'm mad. Okay, well, why is your instructor doing that? All right. What happened to cause your instructor to do that? All right. What's a good rule of thumb for S turns and turns around a point? Like a good spot for them. Turns around a point, I like intersections. S turns, I like roads. Roads. If the roads aren't an option, like edges of farm fields. Yeah. Stalls, landing, power on stalls. I feel like I got them, but I'm not sure what else to do. Well, are you maintaining centerline? Is your airspeed under control? When you stall, do the wings drop? And if they do you immediately try to reef on the, bank over on the ailerons? So let's break down stalls. Like, what's going on with the stalls first? Did you see that they were investigating both parts on Boeing and Airbus for having titanium parts with counterfeit certificates? So I heard about that a while ago. Did that come back up? I'm learning to fly commercial maneuvers at the moment. Do you have any tips for my DPE commercial? Any tips for my DPE commercial check ride? What do you mean your DPE commercial check ride? Learning to fly. So if it's just your commercial check ride, if like it's your commercial maneuvers, just slow down on the controls. Slow down on the controls. Oh shit. Yeah, right there. It's a new one. Oh my God. FAA investigating report. Boeing Airbus used parts made from fake titanium. Oh shit. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating after major manufacturer Boeing and Airbus said that some of the parts for commercial jets may have been fabricated using counterfeit titanium. The FAA said in a statement to Huffington Post that looking into the scope and the impact of this issue, cited disclosure from Boeing about a distributor who may have falsified or provided incorrect records. Holy shit. All suspect parts were quarantined and removed from production. More than 1,000 tests have been completed to confirm the mechanical and metallurgical properties affected the material to ensure continued airworthiness. Holy shit. Holy shit. To ensure compliance, we are removing any affected parts on airplanes prior to delivery. Our analysis shows in-service fleet can continue to fly safely. Airbus did not immediately respond. Well, that's not good. Stagnation point. Somebody brought this up the other day, but I'm just going to Google it. In fluid dynamics, a stagnation point is the point of flow where the local velocity of the fluid is zero. A plentiful, albeit surprising examples of points seem to appear in all but the most extreme cases of fluid dynamics to form no-slip conditions. The assumption that any point of the flow field lying along some boundary consists of nothing but stagnation points. I'm not really sure what that's got to do with it, though. So if I read my notes, I think it's truly landings. Some days good, some days aren't perfect. I'm on centerline, not all the time. That's the problem. Centerline all the time. Centerline all the time. That's it. You got to maintain centerline. If you're not on centerline, go around. I'd rather see a student go around 5 times and land once solid on the centerline than not at all. Or than land off centerline. Okay. I meant like mid-flight, looking out for towers and stuff nearby as I train. There's a lot of that and sometimes difficult to find a spot. Yeah, I mean, towers would be fine. I wouldn't do anything like wires, but like a yeah, that's another one, Bob Duncan. You have to fly the airplane. If the airplane isn't where you want it to be, go around. If the airplane isn't where you want it to be, either make it be where you want it to be, put it where you want it to be, or go around. If you're not on centerline, you're not on centerline. You are doing it. Not the airplane, not your instructor, not, just luck. There is no luck to landing. I don't remember the last time I was off centerline. Hey, I just want to say thank you to your videos. I just passed my private pilot on Tuesday. I feel like I'm struggling with new information on instrument. Yeah, the instrument flying handbook would probably be a good place to start. But what I would also kind of focus on is your student is going, or not your student, but your instructor is going to have you do things known as instrument patterns, or at least they damn well should. They're going to have you do things as instrument patterns. I'll find some and show them to you so that you know what I'm talking about. Instrument patterns, flying. All right. Open in new tab. All right, let me get this over here. All right, so this is an instrument pattern. You're going to start here at normal cruise, 1 minute, then you're going to make a left turn, then 1 minute, then 30 seconds, blah, 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 blah. This one's a little bit more of a complicated one. We can look at some other ones. Instrument pattern, A and B. Here's another one, right? So this really helps you with like looking down, seeing where you're at, seeing where you need to be, and then looking and then maintaining the aircraft, maintaining control of the aircraft while you're doing things like this. Okay. Awesome. But how do I know how much to flare? Look down at the end of the runway. If you're starting to sink, pull. If you're not sinking, don't pull. It's that simple. You're not forcing a flare. A flare happens. Okay? Especially in these smaller aircraft, you don't force the flare. You don't make the airplane flare. You are coming down on your approach, you round out, and then if you start to sink, you pull up. If you stop sinking, stop pulling. But you're not going to be able to tell if you're sinking or not if you don't look down at the end of the runway. Look out. Just look out in the distance. Okay? All good questions, though. All good questions. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? DeAndre, like, are you good? Right? Remember, if you're not maintaining center line, if I'm getting pushed to the left, give it some right aileron. Straighten the nose down the runway with some left rudder. Okay. But Rob, any other questions when it comes to the instrument flying? I would definitely start at the instrument flying handbook, and then you're going to be doing those instrument patterns for probably the first like 10, 15 hours. Maybe 10. I'd probably say like 10 before you actually start getting into any approaches. And then the aim has all the navigation material you'll need on like how the instruments actually work. How early in your pilot training career do you need to know whether you want to be an airline pilot or commercial versus commercial? Well, an airline pilot is commercial, but I mean, you don't really ever have to make a decision. Like I've got 3 different type ratings, flown at a couple different airlines. I'm typed in the Airbus. And here's the thing. Once I get my medical back, I don't know if I'm going back. I might just go back to flying my seaplane and making videos for y'all. Do you suggest landing with trim? What do you mean landing with trim? I'm not sure what you mean by like trim the airplane for the appropriate airspeed. Well, and here's the thing, DeAndre, ask for a different instructor. If you've spent $6,000 on repeating lessons, obviously something isn't clicking and jiving with you and that instructor. Ask for a different one. Be like, hey, and just say so. Be like, hey man, like we've been doing this for a while. Obviously, like I'm not understanding something. You're not getting this across to me. Is it possible for me to fly with somebody else to see if maybe they've got a different teaching method? Remember, you're paying for it. All right. If they're not working with you, fire that motherfucker. If your flight instructor isn't working for you, fire them. Fire them. All right. I have fired myself. I have fired students. Like I have fired myself from students because me and them weren't jiving. We weren't getting the material across. So I found them an instructor that worked better with their learning style. Do you think ATP is worth it? I'm getting my PPL at part 61 while at community college. I feel like ATP would be awesome. Here's the thing. It's hard. You are there every day, all day. It is difficult. And they will kick you out if you can't keep up. ATP has no qualms about kicking you out if you can't keep up. Can you go into a weather briefing for private pilot? That's the only thing I've struggled with. And my ride is in 2 weeks. Call and get a weather briefing. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean are you struggling with? Flying with multiple people is good thing if they're all good instructors. Yes. Would you suggest landing with carb heat off just in case you go around? No, I mean, carb heat doesn't impact your performance enough for it to honestly be a concern. And also carb heat is a pull, like you pull carb heat on. So if you honestly need carb heat, or if you need to go around and you are concerned about the performance, grab a big old handful and push them all in. All right. Trimming down for pitch up attitude while landing, basically adding 2 notches of nose up trim when abeam the numbers and another notch on final. So you think that could help with landings? See, what I think what you're doing is you're expecting to fly a rigid set of instructions, and that is not how flying works. It's just like any other physical action, right? I can't just operate within a finite set of restrictions. Yeah, that's a good place to start, but to be honest, I don't know what you mean by notches. I don't know what notches are in trim. Like, I've never flown an airplane that has notches for trim, so I'm not sure what you mean by that. But if you need a little bit of nose of trim for the appropriate airspeed, like that's it. If your appropriate airspeed for approach is 65, and when you let go of the controls, the airplane pitches down and gains speed, add some trim, nose up trim. All right. I have CFI interview on Wednesday. How should I prepare and what should I study? If you have a CFI interview, you should have your lesson plans ready. Make sure you know your lesson plans and be able to teach. Yeah. So if you had to choose, would you prefer a short tight pattern or wide pattern? Generally a tight pattern. I mean, like I fly an appropriate pattern, like 3/4 mile like 3/4 miles away, I think, half mile away. I don't see the benefit in a wide pattern, I guess. Flying with the lead today, and they said part is I find a new CFI. I'll have to do 3 lessons before I have to move on. Well, I mean, see, if you've spent $6,000 on your current instructor and you're not moving on, 3 lessons with another instructor is, if you're paying $200 an hour, that's $400, and a lesson, 3 lesson, that's $1,200. That's cheaper than what you've been going on. But yeah, bravo, Papa. Just trim the airplane for the appropriate speeds is really what you need to do. It's not a matter of 1 notch, 2 notches, 4 notches. When it comes to like flap introduction and stuff like that, sure. When it comes to where you're going to turn, generally turn at the same places, right? But trim is kind of a fluid thing. Maintain the appropriate airspeed is really what you need to do. Okay. If you let go of the stick and the plane wants to build speed, you need nose down trim. Or you need nose up trim. If you let go of the stick and the airplane wants to pitch up, you need nose up trim. All right. Now, with some airplanes, they are a little heavy on the controls, and it can be kind of hard to like kind of work that flare. All right. I have recommended on very few times to have just a smidge of nose up trim be trimmed slightly too slow. So if your approach speed is 65, trim for 62. So that when you do go to flare the airplane, or when you do go to round out, your airplane's a little more tending upwards. I'm Check Ride Prep, and your videos are amazing. Well, fucking good luck. Thanks for all the support. Make sure, I do see you're over here on Instagram. The full videos are over on YouTube. So go watch the full things and you'll get a whole lot more. Do I have any recommendations for books with the IFR oral exam? Yeah, the Instrument Flying Handbook, the the Aviation Information Manual, and the Instrument Procedures Handbook. Where did I do my training? At UND Aerospace Foundation in partner with Chandler Gilbert Community College in Arizona. That was all of my like primary training, like my core training, things like private pilot, instrument, commercial, multi-engine, commercial, multi-engine, CFI, CFII. But then when I got my MEI, I did my MEI Part 61. I did my seaplane Part 61. I did most of my type ratings with it, either flight safety or CAE in partnership with an airline. And I think that's about it. All right. Thanks for all the good content. Good luck. Keep posted. Well, thanks for showing up. But those are all the books I'd recommend when it comes to the instruments. I think I've got a book as well. One second. All right. So Gleim, I generally recommend Gleim's stuff. Gleim has, what is it? It's got references. It's got the tasks. It's got pictures. Here, let me show you one. Right. It can also be a nice start to, how to build your lesson plans and stuff. Then there's this book. There's stuff in this book that there are jokes in this book. The guy who wrote this book's a racist, sexist asshole. All right. It was required reading as an airline, or not as an airline pilot, but at the flight school I went at. The guy that wrote the book, sexist, racist, homophobic, asshole. It's really easy to digest, though. Like, the stuff is broken down Barney style. So I know at the end of the day, it's about finding your sweet spot for yourself. But when you do some content for tips, so here's the thing: when it comes to landing, it's kind of got to be shown in the airplane. And given that I don't have a medical certificate, nor do I have a Cessna, like I have a Lake 200 here. I'll show you all my airplane. All right, one second. So here's my airplane, or at least a version of my airplane. This one's mine, actually. As you can tell, it's not the standard airplane. So it's kind of hard to like show landings in this thing. Like none of it's going to apply to you. And when it comes to the simulator, like trying to practice landings in a simulator is a waste of time. And trying to show landings in a simulator is even harder. So I don't really have a good airplane to make landing content. I can make seaplane landing content. But I can't really make like good landing content. And given that, like, for fuck's sakes, DJI might be getting banned in the United States now. So now, when I do get my medical certificate back, it's going to be kind of difficult to get like seaplane footage, because, well, the fucking drones are being banned due to racism and bigotry. Yay! Our laws are based on racism and bigotry instead of actually keeping people safe. For fuck's sakes. So that kind of sucks that DJI might be getting banned. But I guess I could probably build my own drone with US sourced parts, even though they're just whatever. But there's plenty of videos out there on landing. There's plenty of videos out there right now on landing Cessnas. So, I mean, just because I haven't put something out yet doesn't mean somebody else hasn't put something out that would definitely fill the gap. I think a lot of people struggle with landings. It would be great even if you made a video without a Cessna. The way you explain it makes it easy. Food for sure. Once my wife gets home from work, because, she's a qualified pilot. Once she gets home from work, we can go hop in the airplane and I'll make some videos. There's actually yeah, sure. I'll make some videos and we'll talk about it. Sound good? Like, yeah, I could probably figure something out. I need to get a new spinner for my airplane though. Any advice for a hard old school DPE? Find a new DPE. That's really my bit of advice for those, I mean, for lack of a better term, abuse of power DPEs. Find a different DPE. If they're the DPEs that just fail people off of principle, like everybody gets a check ride failure once in their life, fuck that guy. Don't use them. Let them starve. Stop using DPEs like that. A DPE is supposed to be here to make sure that you're safe, not that you know how to build an airplane. DPEs needs to know that you're going to be safe and you can sit within the standards appropriately. Not that I don't know. Like I've heard horror stories of some DPEs, but here's the thing: use a different one. So Bravo Papa, I'm gonna share something with you real quick. There's a link to the Discord channel. All right. If you copy and paste that, all right, that is actually going to get you into a Discord that rings right into my pocket. Okay. That Discord has me and I think 3 other instructors and a bunch of other student pilots in there that are all in the same shoes as you. Okay. So, and that's what it's for. It's for instruction. You know, we also do some video games and stuff in there too. But yeah, Faustina Peeve, that book, especially the newest one, it is holy shit. It is bad, but there is some stuff in there that it's very Barney style and very easy to digest, but there's no reason that we need to belittle people or, make 9/11 jokes to try and get the point across. Here, let me see if I can find some shit. Yeah. Why do we have a picture of crickets fucking? Like, I honestly don't think that was a value to anybody's education, right? We don't have too much DPEs and others are fully booked until September or something like that. Then wait till September. I don't have any advice for hard old school DPEs because it's abuse. It's abuse. It's narcissism. It's they just want to be a dick for being a dick's sake. So I don't have, and I'm sorry, but I don't really have any advice because you can't work within a system. You can't work with an examiner that just has it out for you, that wants you to fail. There is no way to work within that framework, to work in that hostile environment. There is no tips to work within a hostile environment. You remove yourselves from that hostile environment. I guess I'd put a camera in the aircraft that's tied into the voice, that's tied into the mics, and record the check ride and just say like, oh, it's for my insurance. My insurance wants me to record every flight in this aircraft in the event that something happens. That's what I would recommend. Have a camera in the aircraft that's tied into the avionics or tied into the voice, and just tell the DPE, oh, my insurance wants me to have a camera in the airplane. So that when that DPE inevitably becomes abusive and, hard old school, you can just ship it off to your local FSDO and be like, look, this was my check ride. That book is Everything Explained for the Professional Pilot by Richie Lengo. But he's not very professional. He's actually, the newest version of his book is even fucking worse. It's like full of 9/11 jokes and people getting, what's this one? Oh yeah, yeah. You know, shit like that. Not a very professional book. But the Gleim Flight Instructor Flight Maneuvers, I recommend that one. So, any other questions? Any other questions? If not, I'm probably just gonna hop off and play some fucking Destiny. Well, I'm probably gonna take my cat for a walk. She's losing her goddamn mind. What's up, Belle? What's up, Belle? How's my fluffy girl? Sorry, one second. I'm gonna see if I can grab her. Fluffy girl. All right. There we go. I got the fluffs. Oh. So, any other questions? Anybody got any other comments? Anybody working on their training? Anybody going through private pilot, instrument, commercial? I'm always happy and willing to answer any and everybody's questions. Yes, I love my fluffy girl. She is. Oh, come on. How can we schedule a mock check ride with you? Ow, Belle, what is your problem? What is your problem, Belle? Trainingwithcheese.com. Trainingwithcheese.com is where you can schedule mock check rides. Okay, fine. Scurry off. Oh, what? Oh, stop it. I'll take you outside in a second. But I think I'm just gonna hop off, take the cat for a walk, and play some Destiny. Oh, shut up. I'm coming. All right. Y'all have a good night. As always, it's a blast.